Okay, got that emptied out. Man, it was nasty. There was sludge like crazy in the bottom. You could see it. I opened it up. Anyway, so I actually shook it around pretty good. I actually went and put some water in it too and shook it down really good to get all that sludge out of the bottom, and then just drained it in. I mean, look at that. You can see the difference in the color of those two. The jug on the right came right out of the engine. The jug on the right was half full from the engine, and the other, whatever's remaining of it, was a mix of, is what came out of this. So, man, yeah, that was gross. I'd say make sure you pay attention to that. You don't want that kind of crap in your engine. Hopefully there isn't that kind of crap in my engine. Judged basing off that color, that looks much better than that muddy brown gross color. So yeah, so I'm just gonna put this back in. And it just kind of fits down. There's a slot down there, you can see, and then this one on top. I guess the trick is to do it all at the same time, right? Got the bottom one in, and then pull forward the top and pop. So one little trick that I learned from my brother-in-law, who is a mechanic, is to squeeze this hose right here, the radiator hose, because this is a high point, so bubbles will tend to stick there while it's moving along. And if you squeeze it, now I should have done this on camera because I just squeezed it a minute ago and I got a big old bubble that came out of it. But I'm going to squeeze it. You just give it a little bit of squeeze and just see that? See those bubbles coming out? I'm just squeezing the tube, which is pushing the bubbles through. Whoop, and up they come. So yeah, that's a lot. Man, that's a whole lot. Now that thermostat hasn't opened up yet because I just turned the engine on a few minutes ago, so maybe, I don't know, once it gets opened up, maybe those bubbles will start pouring themselves through. Otherwise, yeah, I'm doing a lot of squeezing and getting a lot of bubbles. Woo! There we go. There you go. So the thermostat just opened up. Yep. See all that? I'm almost positive the thermostat opened up. Get all those bubbles through. Well, we're going to need more fluid. Sorry, that wasn't in camera, I'm sorry. All that fluid just drained out. So I just put a whole bunch more. Kind of chunky. We're getting sludge circulating around, so awesome. It may be worth it to do a coolant flush now that I've actually bought all this fluid and waste the money. But maybe I should have done that beforehand. I don't know. Again, I'm not real great at this. I'm learning as we go. So, boy, yeah, I can just see gunk coming out of there. It's pretty gross. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but look. That was sitting somewhere in the engine. Man. I watched the video, I think it's from Bleepin' Jeep, I think. He did kind of flush. He flushed everything with water. Unhooked the heater core, which is in there, in the engine, in there. Unhooked the block. Unhooked the radiator. He just used a hose and just powered it full of water. Washed everything out, drained it out, and he used an air hose, an air compressor to blow it all out, to get the water out of it, and then refill it with fluid. And I can see why you'd want to do that. There's junk in your engine, so yikes. No fun. Alright, I'm going to keep watching it. So I'm kind of a dummy. I came in and checked the temperature gauge and it was still at 100. I thought, wow, that's weird. The thermostat's already opened up and it's still down at cool. Yeah. Then I realized I forgot to reconnect the sensor, the temperature sensor on that thermostat housing. So I just went back in, clicked it back on, and whoop, the temperature gauge went up to normal operating temperature. Look at that. That's amazing. That's the first time I've actually seen it at normal operating temperature since I bought this Jeep. I've only owned it for a couple weeks, don't be too crazy. Because that thermostat was stuck open, the old one. So, yeah, so that right there, I forgot to reconnect that. So I just clicked it back in, whoop, up it went. And actually, as soon as I clicked it in and I heard that go, the whole engine changed. Like, the RPMs dropped, just kind of quieted it down, because now it was sensing the correct temperature, so it didn't want to work with it. So yeah, don't forget to reconnect the sensor right there. Hey, so this is looking good. I'm not seeing much kind of coming through anymore. The bubbles are working themselves out. I set myself a timer for about 15 or 20 minutes. What's interesting is you can actually see, I don't think you can see this on the video, but maybe you can. You can see the hot fluid come up into the pot. I hold it really still, maybe you can see it. There, yeah, you see it moving? It's kind of cool. You can see the heated fluid coming up and is exchanging place with the cooler fluid. So, yeah, it's still kind of gunky. That's a little disheartening, huh? But, alright, we'll let it keep going for a little while. Let's see if there's any bubbles. Let's give that a squeeze. No, there's a few. Getting some bubbles out of there. So I do think it's a good idea to keep squeezing that. Get those bubbles out. I may have to put some more fluid in there. Let's top it off. I want to keep this fluid, for my peace of mind, up to about there. Then I know that I got enough in there and it's not going to run dry on me, just in this case. So now I've got more gravity pushing down, which is going to fill the fluid down into the system and take it with it as it's circulating along instead of just keeping bubbles. So it's going to take this and fill that system up better. So I'm just going to keep squirting that. And so now when I squeeze it, see there's some little bubbles coming through. Make sure, let's see, where's my little flashlight? Hang on, here we go. Make sure I'm not like leaking fluid out of there. My thermostat housing, which doesn't look like I am, so looks nice and dry down in there. I don't see any fluid, so I just want to make sure I'm not leaking anything. And underneath that radiator plug, it's closed, so not leaking anything there. So that's good. That means the fluid's going in where it belongs. So, oh, you know what? Gosh, I'm dumb. This is why we keep doing this, right? I forgot that when you do this, you're supposed to turn your heater all the way up. So I got the heat on and it's blowing, but you're supposed to turn it all the way up to get that thermostat going. So looks like our temperature's still doing fine. That's good. I'm gonna let that keep blowing. And I'm just gonna let this run for a while, good 20 minutes or so, while it's running, get those bubbles out. Okay, I want to show you something. So I'm squeezing this hose, and notice those are not bubbles. That's just me squeezing fluid. It's coming up, so the bubbles are moved out of there. That's a good sign to me, because it's pushing things through. So I do really like this idea. The more I think about it, the more it makes sense. Now that I've got the fluid up here, gravity's pushing down on it into the radiator. So as the fluid circulates, the bubbles aren't going to go with it. If you don't have gravity on this, the bubbles are just going to keep circulating through the engine and get stuck somewhere. But this way, as it circulates through, it's got this pushing down on it, so it's taking it with it. If there's any open space, it's going to take this fluid into the circulatory system. Listen to me, I'm a nurse, so that's there you go. It's going to take it in and go out throughout the system instead of taking the bubbles throughout the system. So, man, that really does make a lot of sense. I like it a lot. 45 bucks, in my opinion, worth it for my peace of mind. That is a good not a mechanic tip right there, I think. This is peace of mind for me because I don't understand the inner workings of this thing, of this beast. So if it goes bad, if something wrong goes on in there because of an air bubble or something, I don't know how to watch for it. This is a lot of peace of mind. So, hey guys, this has been running for 20 minutes or so, and there are no bubbles coming out of this thing. You can definitely see it's considerably darker in color though. So I probably want to get the system flushed sooner or later, or sooner than later. I'm just going to squeeze that just to make sure that no bubbles sitting there. You can definitely feel the heat on that hose. Coming around, looks like the temperature's still doing just fine. So, okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is try to turn the engine off. Try to take this out by putting this plug down in there, and then I should be able to theoretically lift that whole thing up, put it over there, drop it down into the reservoir here, and then top that up, of course, without getting a mess spilling around here, because that gasket down inside should have kept it low enough to where I won't cause a mess underneath of that. So, okay, I'm probably going to need two hands to do that, so I probably won't get to show you that on video. Oh, I've got a light underneath underneath the engine. I'm checking out another problem under there. So yeah, I'm gonna give that a shot. Engine's off. I've got this down in there nice and tight. So yeah, I'm just gonna try to take it off and put it right into there. So hopefully this works. So see, I definitely got fluid came out of that. I don't know whether that came out of the cap or out of this thing, so I'm really trying to keep it from getting crap all over the place, because, you know, that's one thing they say on the advertisement of this is stop squeaky belts from whatever, because you don't get coolant all over them. So it's funny because I learned different parts of the country call it coolant or antifreeze. If you're where it's hot, you call it coolant. If you're down where it's cold, you call it antifreeze. Here in Utah, where it's both, it's hot and cold, we call it coolant and antifreeze, and maybe we just call it fluid. I don't know. So, okay, so yeah, that worked okay. I mean, as you can see though, it's definitely topped off with coolant there. So, yeah, so maybe it's not quite as good at keeping from a spill as I would have hoped, because I'm going to have to take that cap off eventually. You know, the engine's hot, so, I mean, obviously it's not spitting at me, it's just the cap's probably hot. The fluid's warm, so I don't really necessarily want to get all into hot liquid right now, and maybe I could grab a syringe or something of some kind and just extract some of that out so I can get the cap off without dumping all of that coolant all over the engine. I just rather not have to clean that up. I've already got some here I need to clean up already, so, and that's one of my least favorite parts about mechanics is cleaning stuff up. Getting gunk everywhere. So anyway, see what I can do. But that worked out okay. I mean, the fluid that's still in there, so this I just put it down in there, and now I can just kind of work that that loose and drain it down into the overflow. So that's nifty. So that's nice. That's pretty cool. You can just plug it up and take it over and move it to wherever you want. So yeah, so let's just go down in there. Okay, you didn't have to get a syringe or anything. Just after I just let it sit for a little bit, the the level dropped enough to where I can get it out. So I can just take that off, take the adapter out. It was kind of cool. There's a whole bunch of these that fit, you know, different. There was one that seemed to fit the opening better, that was a little wider, but it was shorter and it didn't have this ring on it. So when you put the cap over the top, it didn't push it down tight. It kind of wobbled around, which meant to me that fluid could come right up at the edge. Don't want that. You want that a nice, tight fit. Once you put this over there, you want to be able to push down on that gasket so you get a tight fit so the fluid only comes up through the adapter and not out and around it. So yeah, there we go. Put this back on. Nice and tight. So I'll just finish topping up the fluid container, coolant overflow, whatever that's called, reservoir, and then we're good. I'll drive it and keep my eye on that thermostat housing and make sure it doesn't leak. And that's it. The thermostat has changed. First time for me. That was a daunting one, but really not too bad. So the hardest things I think were kind of monkeying with the hoses, which wasn't too bad. Getting the thermostat housing off was easy, but getting the gunk off of the baked on gasket, that was a pain in the butt. So that's probably where I worry the most about is for failure, is that gasket, because I read all the different opinions. Some said, no, you need to put gasket sealer on it on both sides. And some said, no, if you put gasket sealer on it, it'll ruin it. It's not actually supposed to be gasket sealer. It's a separate liquid gasket, and it'll keep the gasket from doing what it's supposed to do. And so I went with that opinion. For some reason, it just felt right to me, especially because the gasket that I got was self-adhesive on one side. You couldn't put sealant on both sides or defeat the purpose of having an adhesive on it. And I know the adhesive's just for installation purposes. I get that. But my point is it would really defeat the purpose, right? So, and the feel of that gasket was kind of a felty feel. And so reading some of these mechanics that were saying, hey, that's supposed to swell when it gets wet. So as the coolant goes through and it hits that, it's going to swell. It's going to absorb into that gasket and swell, which will actually naturally fill up any cracks or gaps or anything, anything outside of a huge gap. And, maybe it would have been best to just buy a new housing too. I don't think it would have been too expensive, just because I saw that corrosion on the inside of this one. If I need to down the road, now I know I can do it. So clean off the gasket, the gunk, that was difficult. I used a razor blade, wire brush. I did end up cleaning everything with brake parts cleaner. So it was all nice and good. I know there wasn't chunks inside. And so that was probably the most difficult part. Don't forget to put your sensor back on. And then just time consuming using this. I really love it. I'd recommend it. For the fluid, I don't know if you can get that on Amazon or anything like that. Maybe I'll find some links or something. Yeah, but I liked it. That was a pretty cool theme. So it really helped me a lot feel pretty safe about the fact that there's few, if any, bubbles in the system. So not too bad of a job for those of us who are not mechanics. I will try to post all the links and the other videos that helped me in the description, so that if you want to watch the videos that I watched, if not, that's what I can save you time here. Is I may not be a mechanic, but I'm very good at research and learning. So I read a lot and I watch a lot before I do any of these jobs, and then I just take all that knowledge and I put it together and do this, because some of them said one thing, some of them said others, some had one part, some had other parts. Put it all together. So anyway, thanks for joining me for the journey. It's probably a long video by now, but hopefully this helped, especially if you're not a mechanic. I'd say again, after everything's done, just make sure everything's tight, that your hose clamps are tight, everything's tight, the way it should be. Make sure you fill your reservoir up, and then go through your engine bay and make sure you didn't leave any tools, no paper towels or tools hanging around that can get you in trouble later on. Okay, thanks guys, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you on whatever the next project is.